Hey guys, BlackCross here. This is going to be kind of a different setup than I normally do. Mostly because of the fact that this one I actually been playing a little bit by myself, so I wouldn't go as far as to say that I want to try to do this as a deep dive into gaming, but technically, deep dive into gaming is more or less of a review series, I suppose you could say. It's more or less about my personal thoughts and stuff, but this is going to be more of an actual review, you know, or at least try to do it as good of a review as possibly can. It may fail, it may succeed, I don't know. At the end of the day, we're going to go ahead and do something different. And the first game that I'm going to be reviewing is none other than MediEvil for the PlayStation 4. So to kind of preference this, allow me to talk about something. I've technically played MediEvil for the PlayStation 1. And to kind of briefly talk about it, I enjoyed the gameplay somewhat, to some degree. I did enjoy it. My only complaint, though, at the time, was that the camera angle for MediEvil 1 was atrocious, unfortunately. I feel like the best way to explain it is that the camera in the PlayStation 1 version was a little bit nauseating. You know, a lot of gamers will tell you there'll be video games that they'll end up playing, but that the entire camera angle or the graphics in general makes them feel quite nauseating at times. And MediEvil 1 kind of did that for me. It kind of made me a little bit nauseating and sick. I did an actual Let's Play, Let's Play. Didn't go very far because I got sick later on, but I did enjoy MediEvil to some degree. And my only thing that I said, if they ever did a remake of MediEvil, which there was rumored for a while, that I would hope that the camera would be better in the MediEvil PS4. Years later, we finally get it. Now, unfortunately, I played through the demo, the short-lived demo, and at first I thought I felt some form of nausea, and I was afraid that this would be the problem that MediEvil would have if this was to continue on in the main game. Well, the good thing is that that's not the case. So, in other words, from where I originally thought that the PS4 might continue on the nauseating part, if nothing else, the final game itself did not. If nothing else, I was able to beat the game fully in its entirety and be able to enjoy the game without any problem whatsoever. So that's the good news to say that I'm going to say right now. The other thing that I should say is that the game plays a lot better on the PlayStation 4 to some degree. I'll get to that in just a sec, but the game plays a lot more smoother, it's a lot more nicer. It's not just because of the fact that the graphics are more smoother and they're a lot more easier to the eye to enjoy, but also too, the controlling plays better. Now, with that being said, however, though, there are times that, unfortunately, the game itself, for some reason, Sir Daniel Fortescue himself, for some reason, there will be times that you might accidentally do something that ends up making him slip and fall, per se. There's a lot of parts in the game where the areas themselves are very narrow, and if you're not careful, you'll end up falling off the edge and falling to your death, losing a health potion in all. And unfortunately, that's where the majority of my death lied in, was the fact that I kept sliding off of the ravine and stuff. I keep falling into the water. I keep falling into my death, so on and so forth. And it was mostly because the slipperiness that the character is, per se. So say, like, for example, you're jumping onto platforming. Sometimes you may jump and you'll slide and just die by accident, per se. And this isn't to say that it's always the case. You know, if you spot on in the middle, you're perfectly fine. But if you're jumping and you overjump a little bit and you're just on the edge, he'll slide off and just fall off the edge. And unfortunately, that's kind of the only problem that I have with MediEvil PS4, was that the majority of my death was mostly cheap death, mostly falling off multiple times, and it got annoying, I will say that much. But it made me aware of the fact that I have to be careful how I tread in the game, and so after I learned that I have to be careful, I can't just mindlessly run through hall to hall, getting to point A to point B and stuff like that. I have to be careful where I go and stuff, and I'm able to get to my point of direction. And so once you figure out where your direction is in terms of jumping Sir Daniel or moving him in through narrow areas, From there, it's a little bit easier to understand. So I'll give MediEvil a little bit of credit where I say the phrase that Sir Daniel feels a little bit slippery, but that's only because I was stupid, probably, more or less. There are a lot of good traits to be seen in the remake. Again, like I said before, from the PlayStation 1, it was the camera that was a problem. With this one, the camera's good, Sir Daniel plays really nicely, but let's talk about MediEvil in genuine, MediEvil overall. So, what do we have here? Well, we have a simple story of where Sir Daniel of Fortescue was basically a warrior of a war against Sorok, the sorcerer. And he died as a hero. Or according to the people, he died as a hero. He just simply died at the start of the battle with an arrow to the eye. Along with many injuries, as it was seen. But, to that degree, though, Sorok ends up coming back and trying to possess the world of Galmir again, basically possessing the people, possessing the dead. And in that end, also brings back Sir Daniel of Fortescue back from death itself. And so it is up to you, as Sir Daniel himself, to stop Sorok in his reign of terror. How so, you might ask? Well, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. The main way would be to simply run through each part of the level, one point to another point, in order to use your sword or your arm, depending on what you have left over, and basically beat your way to the end of the level. Or, if you wanted to, you can go through another way, and that is to defeat every enemy in order to fill up these golden chalices. These golden chalices can be used to attain multiple items in the Hall of Heroes. For every chalice you have attained, you obtain a possible item, or key item, or useful item per se, that will help you in your adventures against Sorok himself. Some of these items are basically a hammer, a new sword, a shield possibly, maybe even a health potion or two, and maybe a little bit of gold here and there. And throughout the entire time, I'm going to tell you this right now, I enjoyed MediEvil for the PS4. I enjoyed my time a lot more than I think I care to admit, because while I was sick with this crud and stuff like that, I played a little bit of MediEvil because I was getting tired of not playing video games in genuine. I was just like, you know what, let's just dive into a video game right now. And I've been wanting to dive into MediEvil anyway. So I was playing it, and I was really enjoying MediEvil overall. I kept playing it, and it's one of those games where you can just easily jump into it anytime you want to, hop back out for a while, and jump back in anytime you need to. Because the levels themselves, at first, may seem long, but that's only if you haven't played MediEvil before. Again, whenever I first played MediEvil for PS1, I only got as far as, like, the maze in the asylum and everything like that. I never really got any further than that. Once you get past the level for the first time, and once you're familiar with the area and stuff, after that, the rest is just like a walk in the park. You can pretty much go and do all the puzzles and stuff like that relatively quickly, and you'll be able to get the level done in no time at all. It feels like it takes a while, but that's only because you're trying to figure out the puzzle firsthand and all of that stuff. But you're probably asking yourself, why would you want to go back to the level? Simple. You played the level first time, you beat the level. And depending on what you have and haven't done, you may want to go back to the level in order to get a golden chalice, or, as we will talk later on, help a lost soul. So, basically, at the end of the day, MediEvil is mindless violence, in the best way possible, with a gothic horror theme aspect, which is another plus in my opinion, cartoony violence such as Sir Daniel himself, and the humor that it has is quite brilliant. I absolutely love the humor that this game has. It's just enjoyable, lovable, the best way you could possibly look at it.
Prepare yourself, little man. I shall roast the flesh from your bones. Oh, I see. Well, in that case, I will pluck out both your eyes. Oh, great. I'm just gonna give you a good hiding.
And as we continue on with the game, there was one aspect that I discovered that was quite interesting, and that was the fact that since this is a remake, there are going to be some things that are going to be different from the original to the remake itself. In the remake's case, they've added in lost souls. These lost souls, once you finally free them from Sorok's chest, once you free that chest, you now have the ability to search out for these lost souls, relocate them into their proper places, do small little quests, and they're very small, mind you, And then after you beat them, you'll eventually get something after you do all of them. And you're probably asking yourself, these Lost Souls seems like they'd probably be pretty hard, won't they? They're like challenge modes, right? Really, in all honesty, they're not. They're actually quite easy, depending on what you've done so far in the game. Like, for some cases, you just may have to beat a bunch of toads, maybe even beat a bunch of ants, probably have to, like, find something per se, and they do give out pretty good, decent hints. They're not, like, really impossible to find. You just gotta read the riddle and figure out, hey, where you need to be at, per se. And if you could think of what level that particular area might be. What's interesting is that once you do the Lost Souls quest, once you got all of them from each level and then find their proper places, once you do that, you get something out of it that was quite interesting. You get the old game. And that was kind of interesting with the fact that once you collected the Lost Souls and relocate them in their proper places, you get the PlayStation 1 version of MediEvil. That's actually pretty cool. That's sort of like a 2 game in 1 type thing, even though technically it's the original game followed by the remake in one package. It's interesting, but at the same time it's kind of weird. But it's nice for those that want to re-experience MediEvil for the PlayStation 1, or for those that had never experienced, they can experience it and see what it was like before the remake. And I think some people would agree that after you see the visuals, the PlayStation 4 version is obviously the better version, naturally. Now, at the timing of this particular recording, I have officially platinum MediEvil, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is actually one of the funnest games that I've platinumed in a long while. I've platinumed a lot of different PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 games, but platinuming MediEvil, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed platinuming it. It was really fun just to play through MediEvil and go through from the very beginning stages, from Sir Daniel's coffin, to all of a sudden get to the very end and beat Sarok. It was very enjoyable, in my personal opinion. I had so much fun with it. And like I said before, I don't normally do that. I don't normally platinum games, every game that I pick up. I only platinum once if I feel like this is a game that I would really sink my teeth into, and I'm willing to suffer through some of the more harder stuff to platinum. This game, however, I platinumed it already. It was actually one of the smaller, but at the same time the more funner platinum games that I've ever platinumed in a while. And MediEvil is a very fun game, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of those games where you can actually sink your teeth into, just play for mindless fun, and the thing is, it's not that hard of a game. You would have to really, really be oblivious to miss these certain key items in order to progress through the game. They're not really well hidden. In fact, they're not hidden at all. You just gotta look through the area and you'll find what you're looking for. While in some cases you may have to backtrack to other levels that you may have not have been previously, if you went through every level, continue on playing through the game, you'll get through it just fine. It's not a hard game at all. If you're able to get every chalice from every level on your way going towards the very end of the game, you know, if you've done this so far, it's actually more progressively easier because you're getting better and better items, better and better equipment, so on and so forth. So with that being said, though, what do I think about MediEvil overall? I really, really, really loved MediEvil. I absolutely had a blast playing through it, had a blast getting into the story, had a blast playing through the levels and stuff. It is a really fun game, and I encourage anyone to pick up MediEvil. And I'm going to do something that I normally never would do in my videos, and that is to rate the video game. Now, I've developed my own rating system, and it's something that I think some people may have to get adjusted to learn how my rating system works. But for this rating system, I'm going to do a 5-star system. And in this case, MediEvil gets a 4 out of 5. Now, when I say a 4 out of 5, basically, like I said before, the only problem is the fact that, technically speaking, you can easily slip and fall if you're not careful. And there is some occasion of where you may have to backtrack depending on the case. Some people may not like that, but this is a very short game. The levels themselves are fairly short, and depending on how many times you went through the level, it would be nothing. And this is probably one of the easiest games to platinum, and probably the more funner ones, really. It's just a mindless enjoyment overall. And as a 4 out of 5, that's not bad, really. That's really good in my opinion. So definitely check out MediEvil. And I hope you enjoyed this little video format. This is something that I've been actually wanting to work towards before, but I hadn't really thought about how I wanted to go about it. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below, how do you like this format? Would you like to see more reviews coming out? If so, I will do more. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Take care, guys.